So we are going to learn how to add a database to a serverless app. At the end of it all, you're going to understand how to create a DynamoDB table, that's our database, and then how to build a full CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete stuff from our database through our Lambda function and then API gateway. So let's get right into it. So we are going to create our database, which is going to be a DynamoDB. So I'll basically click on create table. I'm going to call this table a task, and then my table is going to have a partition key, which is task ID. The type is going to be a string, and then I'll leave everything. Now, under customize settings, I'll select this customized and then ensure I have on demand selected, and then I'll basically proceed to create my table. So now that our table is creating, let's proceed to create a Lambda function which is going to house this. So I'll just search for Lambda, and then once you search for Lambda, basically going to create a function. I'm going to call this function task API fn. Again, the runtime is going to be Python 3.14, and then leave everything as default for now. Or let's just associate permissions to this once and for all. So let's come customize custom execution rule, create a new rule. So this rule by default will have the Lambda basic execution rule, which is pretty much allowing us to create some log groups and things like that. And then I'm going to add this permission sets to it. So this is just a simple permission policy, and all that is doing is that it is doing DynamoDB put item, allowing us to put item, get items, update our database, and then do all those CRUD stuff we seek to do. So since this is my ARN, I'll just go to my database, find my table which is ready, get my table ARN, and then I will update this. So this is my actual table ARN. Then I'll click on my create row. So now my Lambda function, click on save, then create. So I'm just going to update my Lambda code. So this Lambda function code is very simple. All that is doing is that it's a Lambda function that is going to be invoked through an API gateway, and depending on the method, right? If it's a post method, we are creating a task. If it's a get method, we are getting a task based on a specific ID. If it's a put, we are trying to update. If it deletes, we are deleting it, and then we are calling the individual methods in the Lambda function code itself. So this is all that the Lambda code is doing. So if you look at it, update, list, and all that is in here. So a very simple Lambda code. So I'm going to deploy my Lambda. And after deploying my Lambda, what I'll do is I'll go to API gateway. You can search for API gateway. In the previous lesson, we created a simple HTTP API. If you are new and then you are just watching these components, just create a simple HTTP API, and then that is it. Click on HTTP API, create it, and then you can continue from this part of the video. So this is my serverless demo API. It's nothing fancy. We used it to test and hello world. You can create yours. I'm going to create a new route, and I'm going to call this route task. The method is going to be a post method, which is going to be the first one. And then under the same task, I'm going to create a new, which is going to be a get the same task. So I'm going to create it for all the 4 or 5 CRUD operations you want to do. So this one is to create, this one is to get them. The next one is going to be to put, which will allow us to update. Another one We have our delete operation. Then the final one, which is another get. But in this case, this is going to be slightly different. So we are going to do a get, but we are going to do task slash ID. So what we are doing here is this. With this particular get, we are not getting all the available tasks, but we are getting the task based on a specific task ID. So we are fetching a specific task by doing this. So this is it for now. And then what we are going to do now next is to integrate our Lambda functions to our various routes. So I'm going to do add integration, and under the post I'm going to create an integration. The integration type is going to be a Lambda function, and then I'll look for my task Lambda that we just created. Ensure you have the grant API gateway permission access. So I've done my situation. I'm going to do it for all the other methods we created. So now I'll pick its add attachment, come to delete, add attachment, get, add attachment, and then the final one, the same Lambda. So I'm using the same Lambda for everything. So if I had different Lambda functions, I could have selected the different Lambda functions. And then once I have that, this is fine. I've done the association and the integration the way we want it. Because we are using an HTTP API and then we went with the default configuration, this automatically deploys it for us, as I mentioned earlier. So we don't really have to do any new stuff. So that's pretty much it. So now that we are ready, what we are going to do is to try and then test our integration. So if you are looking for your API URL, just come to your stage and then you get your invoke URL. So I'm going to pick my invoke URL. Then for this test, I'm simply going to use Cloud Shell so that I can keep everything in AWS itself. Then what I'm going to first do is to create this path with my base URL. So what I'm pasting in here is my URL. So there's nothing fancy. So all that I'm doing is this. So you can type base is equal to then your URL. Then I'm going to first try and then create a task. So this is the task I'm going to create. I'm going to then run this curl command. So this is the command I'm going to create, which is curl-x base. So this is using the base URL. And then I'm going to proceed to create a new task with the name learn step functions. So as you can see the response, now I have a task ID in the DB table. I have the title and then the status and the time it was created. So now the next one I'm going to do is to try and get a list of all the available tasks in our DB table. So I can basically run curl $base/tax, which is doing the get. And then you can see this is what we currently have in our DB table. There are various tasks. Remember, I made us make a slight change where we were able to get a specific task based off the ID, right? If you want to test that one out also, all you have to do is to run the same command, just that this time around you do /, then you can get your task ID. You can see, so this is the response. So now this is how we integrate our database, our Lambda functions, create several routes in our integration. Thank you, and then let's meet in the next part.